and welcome to Sound and Vision. I, again, am your host, Ian James, and as always, I am joined by the brilliant and beautiful Miss Hope Wade.
Hello.
And today, it is episode 13,
Lucky 13.
Halloween 3, Season of the Witch.
Yeah.
Happy, happy Halloween, Halloween, Halloween. Happy, happy Halloween, silver shamrock. Happy, happy Halloween, Halloween, Halloween. Happy, happy Halloween, silver shamrock.
It's almost time, kids. The clock is ticking. Be in front of your TV sets for the horror-thon. And remember the big giveaway at 9.
I like it.
Okay.
My favorite.
The whole lot?
That one and part one, I'm torn. I don't know.
Okay.
I have to, but yeah, those two are like the main
Yeah.
movies right there.
Yeah. I mean, talking about it today, when we finally get into it, I always think it really should have been, and you're going to agree, it should have been a standalone movie, and it might have got the respect that it should have got. So I just want to start off by saying that personally for me, Halloween 3 is a misunderstood gem of 1980s horror, I think. And in terms of an Halloween sequel, it's awful. In terms of a standalone movie, it's very, very good. Possibly one of my favorites of the decade.
Yeah, it shouldn't had no connections with the franchise of Halloween.
But unfortunately, as I will take you through the story of it,
Yeah.
it wouldn't have been made without those ties. That's the thing.
I know, because John Carpenter had his
Yes.
hands in it somewhat.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
So when did you first see Halloween 3?
I was young. Jeez, it was when we had our double creature features on TV as
So
a kid.
how old were you?
Probably like 9 or 10.
Okay.
Maybe
As you-
younger. I could have been younger. Somewhere around that age. It was around like 8, 9, 10 is when, I started watching a lot of horror movies on TV because they had our Saturdays double creature features, like I was saying, and they would always play
But
Halloween
did you have
3.
previous knowledge of the part 1 and part 2?
Oh, yeah, because they would play that too. And
So did you first come into this expecting to see?
not part 2 as much, I don't think, but I remember part 1 because that used to freak me out as a kid. So.
But did you come into this movie expecting to see Michael Myers? and stuff?
No, not at all. Because when it played, I didn't even, like I said, I thought it was just a standalone. I was too young to, research, do anything like that. So
Okay.
when I watched it, I just thought it was another movie. I didn't know it really had too many ties with Halloween except like the little clips,
Yeah,
like
which
they
is
had
kind of cheaply put in there, in my opinion.
yeah, which you can blink and miss it. So it didn't really have that much meaning
Yeah.
to me as a Halloween movie.
I think my first experience of seeing it, I think it's the first Halloween movie I saw. I saw this one before seeing any of the others.
Okay.
Because I was that young. And again, I didn't know. The point that it was called Halloween 3 meant nothing to me. I was just like, oh, what's this? I think it was like 9 or something, and I absolutely loved it. From the first moment I seen it,
Yeah,
I've always
me
loved
too.
it, and I've always supported it, and I've completely championed it forever, because I know now it's a common thing for everyone to go, yeah, this is a great movie. But there was a time when it was disgusted and hated, really despised, and by Halloween fans today, it still kind of is by a lot of them, but there was a point when it was really hated.
Yeah, it's like a love-hate thing I find with a lot of people. I mean, now it's got more popular, as you
Yeah.
said. Like, tons of people are, like, jumping on the bandwagon.
I know, that's what it feels like to
You
me as
know.
well.
But I was just so enthralled by, like, the kids at Halloween. Like, I love Halloween, so it's my favorite holiday. But having, it is. And so having that with the masks and the whole atmosphere, and plus the music was just on point. Just it made it all a great movie. The
Yeah.
effects and everything.
I mean, saying it's the first one that I've seen of its so-called franchise. A couple of years after, when I was sort of 10 or 11, I got to see Halloween and Halloween 2, and I understood the whole Michael Myers and all the rest of it, and it never tainted my, really good memories of Halloween 3 at all. I was just like, oh, right, okay, it was part of a series of movies and it had the same title, but it never had, I didn't suddenly see 1 and 2 and suddenly think, oh, I hate that one now, because I already liked it and I still like it, and nothing ever changed my opinion on that at all. I think it is a very good example of haters in 1980s horror, then, I should say.
Yeah, I guess if you were a little bit older at that time when Halloween came out, and
Yeah,
like a teenager
yeah,
and
me-
stuff, and
and
then
you'd
you were
already
like,
seen one
"What's
and
this
two.
shit that's coming out?" When
Yeah.
Halloween, by the time Halloween 3 came,
Yeah.
you know, you'd be like,
Yeah,
"Why is this even
possibly, but
part of it?"
I'm
So
glad I wasn't there.
yeah, no, me too, because I was at that right age where I was like, you know, I think I might have seen the first Halloween before that, but like I said, I didn't connect it
Yeah.
at all because there was no Mikey Myers in Halloween 3.
Okay, so just sort of bring the story full cycle then, or to kind of explain the origins of Halloween 3. Basically, as we kind of already said, that Halloween was this John Carpenter low-budget movie from '78, which did very, very well and inspired the whole slasher subgenre of horror, I suppose, to a degree. It certainly, invented a lot of the rules for it. And because it was so successful in 1978, obviously a sequel was demanded. So I think for such a long time, it was the highest grossing independent movie ever made. So in 1981, I think, they made Halloween 2. Obviously, it was always going to happen, which is an interesting sequel. It's not as good as John Carpenter's original, although you get some fanboys try and champion it more so than it deserves. Although it's a decent enough sequel, and I do like it. And in terms of Michael Myers sequels, it's the only one I like. You know, if we're going to talk about Halloween and Michael Myers, for me, I love part 1 because it, like you said, it incorporates everything about Halloween and it's so smartly made on a small budget, and I admire that. And John Carpenter, does a great job with it. And even though he's not around to shoot, although he doesn't want to direct part 2, he's still there to write it and produce it and sort of keep an eye on it. And it doesn't stray too far from the original, but it does feel slightly different. But in saying that, because of the cast and the atmosphere, and you're already invested in the characters, it works as an entertaining movie. It's not as good as 1, despite what Andy Wyatt will tell you. But it's a good solid sequel. I do like it, and that's it for me. Once Michael Myers, sorry about the spoiler, dies in the hospital at the end of that movie, Michael Myers, as far as I'm concerned, is dead. And I don't want any more Michael Myers. That's it, because all the rest of them are just utter shit, and I could spend an hour ranting about that. Okay, but the point is it makes money. Okay, so it was made on a 2.5 million budget, the second one, produced by John Carpenter, as I said, written by John Carpenter, and it made enough money for them to want some more, basically. But at this point, Michael Myers, as he should have been, is dead. So John Carpenter says, well, I'll make a Halloween movie, or stay on to help with an Halloween movie if we take this idea I've got, which he pitched to Dino De Laurentiis, the Italian movie tycoon that was pumping the money into this. And he came up with the idea that what we'll do is make a Halloween movie. We'll call it Halloween, so it'll be Halloween 3. And then next year we'll do Halloween 4, and then we'll do Halloween 5. But what they will be is separate stories. So they were going to be one-off stories for each year. And for this one, Halloween 3, he came up with the idea of, a movie based in season on Halloween, like they all would be. All these Halloween sequels that he was going to make one every year, and they were all going to be based on Halloween night or around Halloween. To keep
October 30th.
to keep that theme, so it could still be called Halloween. And the story going into this one, we needed a story, should I say. And at this point, John Carpenter and Deborah Hill, may I add, who was just as important as John Carpenter was on the previous movies, were in this one as producers, but not writers. And the idea was to bring in someone to write an original story, which they would oversee, but just sort of, giving them the bare bones of what they wanted. And I mean, so the story goes, because Joe Dante was apparently the original director to do this. And at this point, he did Piranha and The Howling.
Yeah.
Just before he did Gremlins. So he was brought in to direct this movie, which was going to be made on exactly the same budget as the previous one. So once again, it's going to be given 2.5 million, which is not a lot of money. And Joe Dante flirted with the idea for a while and then didn't want to do it. But the one thing Joe Dante did do was invite, English writer Nigel Neal to come and write the screenplay, which is, I have to really stress how important this is, because I think without Nigel Neal, this whole thing wouldn't have worked anyway. And he was hired to write a screenplay within 6 weeks for this movie, and he came from working in England, then writing screenplays and plays and some really influential science fiction stuff, which he's now regarded as one of the greatest writers of science fiction, and is well acknowledged by Russell T Davies, who had a big hand in resurrecting Doctor Who in the 90s and 2000s, and is also loved by Stephen King, who the Tommy Knockers is a Nigel Neal ripoff, if I'm being honest, and especially loved by John Carpenter. So John Carpenter was really excited by this, amazingly so. When Carpenter lists like movies that he loves, there's those Nigel Neal's works always in there. And funnily enough, Quatermass and Pit, which is an influential writing of Nigel Neal, which got made by Hammer Studios, the Hammer Studios. Basically, Prince of Darkness is basically Quatermass and the Pit. So he kind of steals the whole plot for Prince of Darkness to a degree of Nigel Neal, even to the point that he edited John Carpenter edited the movie himself under the pseudonym of Martin Quatermass after the character.
Yeah.
And also the opening shot of Halloween with the pumpkin being lit up and then the camera kind of slowly zooming through the eye into a Steadicam one single take shot for Halloween is inspired by the opening of Hammer's Quatermass and the Pit also.
Oh, okay.
So if you check that one out, just so you can put them together and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. So Nigel Neal's brought in to do this movie. John Carpenter's very, very excited by this. Like I said, because he wrote such good stuff for Hammer. And Nigel Neal's idea was to make a movie themed around Halloween that would take Halloween the season back to its pagan origins, and that's what he wanted to do. So he devised an idea that would incorporate Stonehenge and some of the mythology and stuff. This is all Nigel Neal's stuff. And at this point, of course, they didn't have a director because Dante walked away from the project. And I so say, anyways, from what I read, is that Nigel Neal was the only reason he was in Hollywood at this point, because he had no experience of writing movies in Hollywood, but he was there. Well, he was invited by John Landis because they were going to do a remake of Creature from the Black Lagoon, which never got made. But that's why Nigel Neal was in Hollywood. So he comes over. He's got 6 weeks to write this Halloween pagan idea. Joe Dante walks away from the project. John Carpenter clearly didn't want to do it. So Tommy Lee Wallace, who was good friends of John Carpenter, and he'd known him since they were at film school together, and he did various jobs on Carpenter's Dark Star, Assault on Precinct 13, Halloween, even to the point on Halloween that he met Nancy Loomis, or I think he met her on Assault on Precinct 13, who obviously became his wife, and they had 2 children, not together now, but she's got a cameo in this one as well, hasn't she? Season of the Witch.
Oh God, she was a real bitch in this
at
one.
the
She
beginning,
was like the bitch,
she's like Tom Atkins' wife,
ex-wife, or soon-to-be ex-wife. Hopefully, I don't know, because he didn't act like he had a wife. So I don't know.
No, and we're going to get to the plot basics in a minute, which I hope will take you through most of the plot. So basically, Tommy Lee Wallace is brought in to direct, and at this point, no experience of directing at all, but he was keen to do it. He's very enthusiastic and up for it. And at this point, the only, other than the little bits and pieces he did with John Carpenter, he wrote the screenplay for Amityville 2, which in my opinion is the best film in the whole Amityville series, speaking for myself. Although this film never really led to much in terms of a career after, really, though he carried on working in the industry. Notable things would be directing Fright Night 2 and the Stephen King's TV adaptation of It with Tim Curry. Bringing it back to Season of the Witch. So 1982, this 2.5 small budget, Nigel Neal's wrote this whole screenplay. Tommy Lee Wallace is set to direct it. We got Deborah Hill and John Carpenter in producing it. DP on this, or director of photography, is Dean Cundy, who shot Halloween 1, Halloween 2, also shot lots of John Carpenter stuff, shot, like I said, Halloween. I think, he shot The Fog. And then ended up in Hollywood, actually, and ended up working on, like, Jurassic Park and Hook and Apollo 13. So he did all, so he went these, like, one of the first jobs he ever did was one of the Ilsa exploitation movies from the 70s, and Satan's School for Cheerleaders.
Okay, yeah.
So he was working in this minimal budget, and then he'd end up shooting Jurassic Park in Apollo 13, so he evolved.
Yeah.
But yeah, Dean Cundy and obviously Carpenter Hill all had connections with Halloween, so they're all, it's in safe hands basically. All the people involved in this movie had previously just worked on Halloween 2. We should mention the score by Alan Allworth and John Carpenter. Let's mention Alan Allworth as well, because we were too quick to give everything to John Carpenter.
Yeah.
And Alan Allworth certainly contributes a hell of a lot to this. And they also, they made a great team, to be fair. Those two together was kind of dynamite. They also did the scores for Escape from New York and Christine, They Live, Prince of Darkness. And previous to these collaborations with John Carpenter, he'd worked in TV most I think in TV, I'm pretty sure. But he's also the same designer on the Star Trek movies and Poltergeist.
Oh, okay.
So he's kind of in the industry completely. But those scores that he did with John Carpenter, I think, is what he'd always be remembered for.
Yeah.
And the score here for Season of the Witch is, for me personally speaking, it's the best.
I think
it's best
so too.
work.
Yeah.
I think it's incredible.
I think it's better than 1.
Yeah, I love the score for this movie.
Yeah,
I can't
too.
stress it enough.
And I think I remember reading that it was like more of a slowed down version, and that they put in a lot of like
because you can still hear the motif from Halloween, can't you?
Yeah.
But
and
played differently.
Yeah, and the atmosphere they wanted was like they tried to get people to more like a jump scare, kind of like those false, what I mean?
Apparently they wrote the score after the film was shot. Sometimes directors used a score to be made at the same time with the movie to kind of show
heighten
and to kind of play around the
scene.
actors, so the actors know how to play the scene. But they put this score to kind of in, I suppose it's a traditional manner, but it's done different ways. But they, like you said, they kind of wrote musical cues for jump scares and stuff in this movie.
Because I think even in the beginning it was like that. When the guy's running, is kind of like this tension. They do that a lot. Like you said, for movies, like to make everything more tense, and people's like, oh no, what's going on?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's great. It's one of my favorites.
I also love by the way, we mentioned as well that the tagline for this movie, which always makes me laugh, is it's the night nobody came home. Which is like my favourite gag ever. Which, I mean, to like the Michael Myers fans, it probably pissed them off, but to me and Hope Sayo, it was very funny.
Yeah.
So if you're watching this for Michael Myers, it's in the tagline, folks. Nobody comes home. And which is kind of meaning two things, really, because in terms of the plot, maybe nobody is coming home, because this is quite an apocalyptic movie in a way, isn't it? Okay, I should mention as well, going into production now, the film's being made, Nigel Neal leaves the project, which I've got a point to say now, because Dino De Laurentiis sticks his nose in. And says, oh, we know there's not enough violence in this. Oh, there's not enough kills, not enough gore. No one's going to watch this. And Nigel Neal was like, I'm out of here. You know, he's going to mess with my script. He's doing too much. So Nigel Neal walks away from the project. And just before they start shooting, Tommy Lee Wallace has to revise the whole script, which is sad because Tommy Lee Wallace and Nigel Neal really got on, apparently. So there's no hard feelings between those two. And I think he was very sad they had to let him go. And I know John Carpenter was as well, because he was obviously really pleased to get him on the film. So the final script is Tommy Lee Wallace's screenplay, but there's still big chunks of Nigel Neal in it. The Stonehenge angle and stuff is still Nigel Neal's original ideas, which is kind of sad, because I wish that they had played it the exact same way they originally did. And Deborah Hill said that she wanted to, because they had to revise the script, she said, well, maybe we could bring witchcraft to the computer age, which is a perfect summing up of what this movie really is, I guess.
Yeah, because it is robot.
Yeah,
robots and stuff.
Robots and witchcraft.
Yeah,
which is unique. There's not many of those films being made. In terms of the cast, Tom Atkins in the lead, obviously a Carpenter regular at this point, played lots of roles on TV. He was always playing cops and authority figures. And then because Deborah Hill got him this gig, Deborah Hill brought him in on this movie.
Okay.
But obviously they had previous experience with him on The Fog.
Yeah.
And he made a whole career out of those John Carpenter things, but he's also in Creepshow and stuff, isn't he?
Night of the Creeps.
Yes, well done. And Lethal Weapon as well. So a good, reliable, solid, old school lead for the movie. Love interest is played by Stacey Nellican, who did lots of TV work and got into the industry. As I was just saying, me and Hope were discussing before we came on, and I was saying that she was Woody Allen's girlfriend, and that's how she got the part. That's how she got into the movie industry, I should say.
Yeah.
And anyone who's familiar with Woody Allen's movies, if you ever see the film Manhattan by Woody Allen, the Merrill Hemingway character in that is based on Stacey Nellican, because Woody writes autobiography, kind of writes his own stuff into his own movies.
Yeah.
And I suppose, you know, if you put them together, it's quite interesting if you take the time to do it.
Yeah, she's a little tart in this one.
Yeah, I'm not sure. She's very young. Well, she looks young, because she's 23 when she made this.
Oh, really?
But she looks a lot younger.
Yeah.
And so basically the movie, if I can sum up the story as quick as I kind of can, is basically as Hope mentioned, there's someone running from a mystery at the beginning of the movie, which sets up the movie, and he's clutching a mask, and he kind of dies with this mask. Or did they take him to the hospital? That's terrible of me, I should know.
They took him to the hospital.
But with the mask.
With
he's still
the mask,
clutching the
of
mask.
course.
Okay.
You have the mask.
Which will be the clue for what will happen in the movie. And then one of the doctors at the hospital is played by, obviously, Tom Atkins, who will suddenly be the guy we follow for the rest of the movie. And he meets Stacey Nellican, who's there because her father's just died.
Yeah.
And between the pair of them, they try and investigate this whole weird scenario involving this guy who's came with this mask, and it's a week, and it starts off a week before Halloween, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I
think it's like October the 23rd or something. Pretty sure.
I can't remember, but yeah.
Because you've got a week of investigating, haven't you?
Yeah, I don't know if it took that long, but yeah.
I'm pretty sure it does.
Okay. I say 3 days.
I say good 6. Anyway, so.
It's 3.
So 6. So the two of them, go to this strange town where this mask was manufactured, because there's a big factory called Silver Shamrock, which is the Irish stuff as well. Again, is Nigel Neal, and apparently it's all shot in California, by the way. But the Silver Shamrock factory, is actually a milk bottle factory.
Okay.
At Dublin as the Silver Shamrock warehouse. Familiar Foods. I don't know if that means anything to you in America.
No.
Okay, maybe it's a regional thing then.
Yeah.
But so it was a milk bottle place.
Okay.
A milk bottle place that were manufacturing masks.
Yeah, it looked like it, because all it was rooms and big machines and
lights and buttons.
Buttons.
Which I love.
Yeah.
Science fiction. I don't want facts. I just want lights and buttons. And I'm happy. Rubber monsters, lights and buttons.
Yeah.
So basically they go and investigate this whole myth of this mask, and that basically, I just want to say, is the crux of the story. That's basically what this movie is about.
Based on the mask, because his kids bought the mask prior.
Tom Atkins is
bought the mask prior to him at the hospital, before they even showed it, I think, at the hospital.
Which is the scene with Nancy Loomis, who we just mentioned.
Yeah.
Playing the kind of wife on the way out.
Yeah, well, something.
Separated.
I don't know what they were. Were they married? Were they separated? I can't remember because they acted like they were getting divorced or
No,
something.
they actually acted
were
like a married
separated.
couple. Trust me.
Anyways, they hated each other.
Exactly.
And,
Like I said, married couple.
and the kids had already purchased the mask. So these kids were purchasing masks, and then they were showing the commercial on
Yeah, which is a
TV.
major part of this movie. Yeah.
Okay, well maybe you're right because it did say 8 more days.
Yeah,
till
thank
Halloween.
you. See, there you go.
Shut up! I'll give you that one.
Okay. Yeah, point proven. I tell you what, there's nothing more
Fuck
satisfying
me.
than being right. So basically, yeah, they're there in this town to investigate the Silver Shamrock. It was run by this chameleon Svengali type character, Colonel Cochrane, I think his name was. He's an Irish guy played by Dan O'Hurley.
Oh, so good.
He was in loads of westerns. He actually was Irish as well. He was in lots of westerns and stuff mostly, but maybe familiar to a few people for playing the old man in RoboCop. And he was also in Twin Peaks.
Yes.
As a tycoon, he kind of got into the original TV series by Lynch and Frost. I mean, he's very good here. You know, he's very sinister looking. And
Yeah,
kind of creepy.
he does
You know,
bring
kind
the
of
vibe.
scowling around the factory. You know, with these what look like robot people working for him, which is just like a factory because I've worked in the factory and
Yeah, pretty much.
I've actually been one of the robots. So yeah, that whole setup is pretty cool. And again, lights and buttons, which always please me. Yeah, so they meet him and then they sort of uncover the mystery some more and why these masks are being made. And this is, you know, the ideas and themes and stuff in this movie is why the masks are being made and what are these masks going to finally do in 8 days. You know, there's a big master plan at work here, and basically the master plan is that every child in America will buy these masks and on Halloween night will be hypnotized by an advert or a program
Yeah.
that will play on national TV. And destroy mankind.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think there's any other way of explaining it. I think that's pretty much on the head, isn't it?
Do they destroy mankind or do they end up dying? Because they all seem to end
but
up dying.
But that's the point, isn't it? That it will just end the world, basically.
Oh, okay. Well,
Which
there you go.
I
And
never
then what?
really-
They would take over him
Well,
and
yeah,
his robots.
But this is what I mean. I used to always think, well, what's he going to do now he's done that? He's killed everyone. And yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully he saved, some people. It would
Yeah,
be sad to be all alone.
With his robots.
Yeah, with his robots.
But hey, we went with it, and it, like I said, it's so atmospherically shot in widescreen by Dean Cundy, so perfectly scored by Alan Allworth. It is an experience. I think it's a little low budget movie. I think it's an incredible experience.
Yeah, I think they did good on the story. Because you could just say, oh, it's just it's so plain. Like some people just really hate it, but I think the story was clever with going into the town.
The town as well, by the way, is called Santa Mira. This is an in-joke for anyone who knows about this, and Santa Mira is the same title of the town as in Invasion of the Body Snatchers, so there's an in-joke there.
Yeah, because all the people would at
Are
6 o'clock.
are being replaced by robots, aren't they? Which is like the pod people of
Yeah.
1956's the original Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Yeah.
And the best version, by the way.
Yeah, well, and definitely somebody would come over the speaker and telling everybody to get in, which was Jamie Lee Curtis. They got to do
the voice, yeah, because she does a voice in The Thing as well, isn't she? The computer that plays
she
chess
does.
with Kurt Russell.
Yeah.
She's the voice in that as well, isn't she?
Yeah, so Carpenter has her come in and do
a
her
little
bit.
a little voiceover.
She gets a little bit and everything.
Yeah. The voice on the adverts, though, incidentally, for the Silver Shamrock advert is
Tommy Lee Wallace.
Yeah, the director.
Yeah.
So he gets to do some voiceover work.
Yeah, I remember reading about that.
Yeah.
That he was doing that voice and he didn't, because I think he didn't. Did he not have anybody do, or he was like, oh, I can do this. And
Well, it's a minor job, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, and it kind of fits the kind of things that he would do before he got this director's gig. He's filling in doing sound design and stuff for John Carpenter.
And he said he had a fun time doing it. I remember
Yeah.
seeing it on director's cut thing. They had behind the scenes and him talking about it. So yeah, that was pretty funny. If you get to watch the movie, definitely get the behind the story scenes because I love it. But as I was saying, the story, you could just be like, oh, it's robots in this. But I like how it played out because they had the guy hiring, making sure these masks go out to the Halloween stores. So everybody,
One of the Halloween stores as well is called Landis something, as a nod to John Landis. So there's another in-joke there as well.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Was it her dad's store? Because the chick's, what's her name, Stacy?
Nellican, yeah.
What was her name in the movie? I forgot.
Ellie.
Ellie. Okay, so yeah, it was her dad's Halloween store was selling it, right?
Yeah.
So then she had to go back to the store and figure out why all these things were happening, and then they did, and then they're like, oh, well, we got to go find out who killed my father. And I can't remember why they killed him. Was it because he didn't want the masks anymore, or was he catching on? There was always some kind of thing because he ends up killing all the people that sell the mask for some reason.
Well, they're just there to do his dirty work, aren't they, really?
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
to kind of put his product out there.
Yeah, I guess.
Which is kind of eerily like how things are kind of, you know, how things are manufactured today. It does kind of feel... Maybe I'm reading too much into this.
Sell this and then I'll kill you.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, but you would think because I remember them saying, "Oh, you're like my top seller," and it's like, well, why are you gonna do that to your top seller? I don't get it. Why are you gonna kill off your top seller? Am I reading too far into this?
Yeah, because let's face it, once Halloween comes around and these masks do their job,
they don't need them anymore.
No.
Oh, well, that's true. Because everybody be dead, I guess.
Yeah, and then what? What does Colonel Cochrane get out of this?
He spoke too soon because they didn't die.
Okay, we'll just talk about the masks for a second, actual masks themselves, and the advertisement, which is a big part of this movie, and is the one thing I guess a lot of people remember about this movie. If they remember anything, they'll say, "Oh, that's the movie with the masks and the theme
and
tune,
the commercial,
which is based on London Bridge is falling down."
Yeah.
Which is like, you know, 8 more days to Halloween. You know, I'm not going to sing the whole thing, for God's sake. I mean, people I know a lot of people probably hate it.
I love it.
So yeah, you got this little jingle that plays on the telly, which is fantastic and fits the movie wonderfully, although it seems to wind a lot of people up. Where it's advertising these free masks. There's a choice of 3. There's the witch mask, the skull mask, a glow-in-the-dark witch one, or a glow-in-the-dark skull. One of them glows in the dark, I remember correctly.
I can't remember.
And there's the jack-o'-lantern one. But apparently the jack-o'-lantern one was... The other 2 are based on actual masks that were in existence. The jack-o'-lantern one had to be designed for the film.
Okay.
But they took basic designs of what they knew of that. But the other 2 were already in existence. And because at the time of making this movie, they kind of figured it was going to be grey and it's going to start the Halloween craze and we're going to get to keep making these movies every year, they actually made up masks to sell. So they were out there for a limited time where they were selling for $25 each back in 1982.
Yeah,
so I'm not
really
expensive
for back
I figured
then.
It would be,
Yeah.
And they said, one day this film will have a cult following and these masks will be collectible. And of course it really flopped and then they poured them all off the shelves and they disappeared.
God, I wish I had
but
some of those.
If anyone has one,
yeah,
please send me a picture because I'm well impressed that they manufactured masks based on the film. But as we said, the film didn't do that well at the time. So, but now I'm sure if you've got one of those masks, they're probably worth a hell of a lot more than $25. I'm sure, probably 4 figures now, I would say. So yeah, the masks are very distinct looking. And obviously a big part of this movie. And as I said, are the things that are probably remembered about this movie. So much so that they're kind of homaged in later movies. Last year's Halloween 2018, which...
of course. They had to put it in there to be cool.
Yeah, and it is in there. There's a scene where the kids cross the street and they're wearing the mask. It's a little in joke for a film that's so obsessed with ignoring its sequels.
I know. They said to ignore everything else. Nothing else existed.
After part 1.
So wouldn't it be called Halloween 2? Why was it Halloween 2018? Because it was like 40 years later. Michael already existed, so there was Halloween 1. Why didn't it be called Halloween 2?
Because there was already a Halloween 2, and there was also a Rob Zombie Halloween 2. So it's Halloween
2018.
Or it's Halloween 2.3 because there's already loads of part 2s.
But don't tell me to ignore everything then, because that doesn't make any sense to me. And then they want to put in Season of the Witch, and that just fucks everything, because they can be cool. And as you can tell, it's the worst movie.
Are you? Yeah,
no, it's the worst movie. It makes me angry. Okay. I can't believe I sat through it.
Well, yeah, I managed to just about keep you awake to finish the movie.
Yeah.
But it's also referenced in Adam Wingard's movie, The Guest.
Love it.
There's a nod to Halloween 3 with the masks, and also the synthy score. I guess we could kind of co-credit it.
It was
Wingard's obsession with John Carpenter and Alan Allworth.
It was a lot of goth music. And, it had like Love and Rockets. It had Sisters of Mercy, and then it had Survive. So you had that synthy, who does Stranger Things.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, Kyle Dixon. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, that's a top tip, by the way. If you want to go and see an independent movie they might not know of, just check it.
Go see The Guest.
Go see The Guest.
I liked seeing that though in the movie.
Yeah. I'd rather see the little nod in that than the little nod in 2018. Ignore the sequels.
Yeah. Fuck that shit.
Okay, so just to give me a second. Okay, so just to bring it back to Halloween 3 again.
Okay.
So the film was completed, as we've pretty much explained the plot and who was in it, because there was no real the ordinary casting decisions kind of made or anything the ordinary. We've also mentioned actually a bit of trivia for you though is one of the robot assassins that works at the factory is played by Dick Warlock. It was a movie stuntman, and it's famously Billy Warlock from Baywatch's dad. It was also more importantly Michael Myers from Halloween 2. Yeah. So he's in this as a cameo if you noticed him.
Okay.
Nancy Loomis, obviously the angry wife.
Yeah.
And the little kid is played by Josh Miller, who would later go on to be in Class of 1990 and Near Dark, I suppose, more, and River's Edge as well.
Oh, okay.
Who was Jason Miller's son. Jason Miller from The Exorcist, and Jason Patrick from Lost Boys, that's his half-brother.
Oh, yes.
So, a
lot of
if you're
connections
star spot
there.
in there, yeah, it's a little bit of trivia thrown in.
Yeah.
So the movie got released at the end of 82 in time for Halloween in America, and got released in early 83 here in the UK, and was universally loathed. Critics hated it. Roger Ebert, who doesn't have a good word to say about anything, apparently it made his list of the worst films ever made.
I don't listen to him at all.
Made.
You know what I give him? A thumbs down.
Or a middle finger up.
Yeah. He doesn't like anything.
No, I
He's
know.
such a grump in the bum.
Which makes me laugh because he actually co-wrote and enjoyed working with Russ Meyer on a series of movies.
Of course he did. That's all tits, you know.
Yeah, but
Why
no,
not?
so exploitation's all right when it's sex and nudity, but it's not all right when
I
it's
guess we know what kind of guy he is.
sleaze.
And how can he not like this? Because, like I said, that chick came in
Stacey
all tarted
turns
up.
up, yeah. She's good in a negligee
Oh, she was prepared. Okay, I love this. She goes on, with a guy that she just met.
to a motel.
To a motel. She has her little bag. Oh, look at me when I'm coming out of the bathroom. I'm in my lingerie. Seriously, who does that? Should I pack a little lingerie? No, I've never done that in my life. I don't understand it.
That's a shame.
I wish I would have thought about that idea, though. Maybe if I would have.
I'll put next time we go anywhere, I'll put that idea in your head.
Just take my lingerie.
Yeah.
But she didn't even know the guy, and then I love it. He's just asking, how old are you? Really, because he didn't even know how old she was or anything. They're all tits in his face thing. So
Yeah, I mean, I gotta be really fair. If that sort of thing's going on, I wouldn't. Yeah. Okay.
it wouldn't bother you. He's like,
Hey, what were you?
how old are you again? Oh, I'm old enough. Old enough. Don't you worry about it.
Yeah. And like we said, she's 23, and Tom Atkins is 46.
Holy shit! In that movie, he was 46.
He's 46. She's 23.
She's 23.
But she's had experience with Woody Allen, so it's all good. Okay. Okay. Okay, I'm moving on very quickly. Very, very quickly. So yeah, the film comes out and kind of flops, and Roger Ebert says it's one of the worst things I've ever seen. And reasons for this, apparently in critique then, is apparently it's there's no Michael Myers, which we've already stressed that everyone didn't like that. And another reason these critics didn't like it, the only thing they did like actually was Stacey Nelligan. They said, she's kind of a breath of fresh air and kind of, maybe it's probably Roger Ebert writing that one as well.
Yeah.
Because he fancies her. But they kind of highlight that she's pretty good in this. But everything else they're down on, and especially no Michael Myers, and especially the nihilistic ending. It didn't sit well with audiences. They were like, can you end a film like that? That's disgusting and stuff, which makes me laugh because back in 1982, it's a very daring ending. It's a very bleak ending. It's perfect in my eyes for the movie. It's very haunting. It's very nightmarish, and it works. It's exactly what I want, and I still want that now.
Yeah, because you don't know what's happening
No,
after.
but making films today, if it doesn't got a nihilistic ending, nobody makes it anymore. Because I'm always saying to you, aren't I, that you don't see many happy endings in horror films anymore. And I just want to get this across that I absolutely love. I like a nihilistic ending. I like things to be chaos sometimes, and because life doesn't always work out. But sometimes, just sometimes, even if it's just to throw your audience, let's have a happy ending sometimes. Because now we don't do that at all. But because nobody wants that anymore, because life isn't, they're really on it that life isn't like that. So back in 1982, they were getting their knickers in a knot that this one ends nastily. I don't get it.
It ends nasty.
Maybe that's why people like it today. Maybe that's why I said it's found an audience now. People are responding to this movie and has a strong cult following now. Maybe because audiences today are like, well, every horror film should have a nihilistic ending, so we love it. And maybe because it flopped back in the day because at the end of Halloween 2, Michael Myers is killed and Jamie Lee Curtis survives and everyone's happy and it makes lots of money. So maybe that was another problem at the time, that it is such a bleak ending.
Yeah.
Although it could have been worse because, again, in the original screenplay by Nigel Neal, everyone
Did die?
Well, yeah, but to the degree of that they were going to shoot these scenes where they were going to go around all these towns in America, and you were going to hear the kids screaming over the end credits.
Oh, that would have been awesome.
Which really worries me because you kind of play a mother to my two kids. But yeah, screaming kids, okay,
Yeah.
and that was it. But apparently they've like, no, you're not doing that because we need to leave this movie with just a slight hint of hope that at the end. I don't want to spoil the end for anyone who hasn't seen, but I'm sure you have. Tom Atkins has this whole turn it off, stop it. But we don't really know if he does stop it or he doesn't stop it because it kind of fades out on that. And
you don't know.
It's a great ending.
Yeah.
And therefore,
if he did stop.
And therefore, the Dino De Laurentiis and the people behind the movie, John Carpenter included, are kind of like, well, that leaves it with a little bit of hope because we don't 100% know. But the original ending, where we're going to see kids screaming and dying everywhere.
I would have loved it. Oh my god, that would have been like
they said
so good.
They said it would have been too much. So
Really?
Yeah, so they changed their mind on that.
What's too much about that?
I don't know, but yeah. So the ending was, let's not quite push it that far.
Yeah.
I'm sure if it was made today, though, they would have pushed it right over the edge. But yeah, no, it's kind of left. It's kind of left there.
Shit if it's made today.
So yeah, and because the film flopped back in 1982, it didn't leave much room for let's make another one the following year. Basically, that killed the whole thing. Production was closed down on this movie because Halloween 4 was lined up, and it was going to be a ghost story apparently.
Oh, that would have been nice.
But we'll never know now what that was. And John Carpenter again would have been producing again. But because this one, you know, I think it made 14 million back on a 2 million budget, where the previous year Halloween 2 had made 25 million. So it was sort of, you know, 11 million down on the previous year, and the critics were moaning about this one. So they closed down John Carpenter's idea of any more of these Halloween themed sequels for each year, and that was the end. That is the end of Halloween Mark 1, the period of Halloween movies.
See, I would take that today. He should be doing that instead of fucking 2018 Halloween, bringing back Mikey Myers.
But
because
if something's already been proven now, people don't like a Halloween movie if it doesn't have Michael Myers in it. And that's why we're not getting that. That's why it's not coming back today. That's why they're not retreading that idea.
I think it would be, but everybody's loving Halloween 3. So I don't know if it's just people from our generation that watched it and grew up with it that is loving it so much. Is younger generation? I don't know. You guys should tell us. Is it younger generation that is loving it?
I would like to ask a lot of the younger people. I mean, unfortunately, in our group, we were all my age.
Yeah.
In the group, right?
But they can leave. We're on Podbean and wherever you're listening to us. Leave a comment.
If you are, if you're listening to this anywhere, and you're sort of under the age of like 27,
yeah.
Please let me know, if this film stands up, or if this compares to the others, or if you even like this movie.
They're probably not even listening to us if they didn't like it, though. They're probably like, "Fuck that shit. I don't even like Halloween 3. Why am I going to listen to?"
Well, then maybe they're listening to it so they can sit there with them. Maybe they're listening to this
with their parents.
No, maybe they're listening to this so they can sit there with their friends and correct us and say, "What do those two fucking know?" Listen to those two thinking they know it all, because I know a lot of young people like to put me and Hope back in our box.
Oh yeah.
Our opinions are worth nothing.
That's true.
But if you are listening and enjoying this and agreeing with us, then let me tell you, you are correct.
Yes.
You are thinking.
If you're one of the normal kids.
No, but all jokes aside, though, yeah. I like to hear sort of younger opinions on if they think this movie holds up or not. But because of its limited success. As I said, that is the end of this original great idea I thought John Carpenter had to make films every year. And so that was, we never got Halloween 4, the ghost story, which we were originally going to have. And basically, for 5 years then, Halloween, the story of the Halloween first period is over. But because it changes hands, always does with producers and stuff, but Mustafa Hakkad, who owns the rights to Halloween right from the beginning, does decide to resurrect the franchise in 1988. Because I think it's 5 years after this movie, which is like a notorious flop in this day, but no cult favorite. So 5 years later, in 1988, he decides to resurrect Michael Myers, right? And we're not going to go into the whole thing, but basically because Nightmare on Elm Street sequels are making a load of money. So Freddy Krueger is a face at this point. Jason comes back in part 6, as you know, in Friday the 13th. So Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street were making money at the box office, which inspired Mustafa Hakkad to bring Michael Myers back. He's like, I got someone who everyone likes and knows. I'm going to bring him back. So in 1988, they made, it wasn't Halloween 4, the ghost story produced by John Carpenter, which had been awesome. It was this cheap looking cash in almost, which brought Michael Myers back from the dead, even though he's clearly blown up in part 2, and it's just Michael Myers all the way back through. I'm not even going to go into it after that, but basically so it ended the idea of what we could have had, and everyone knows what we did have. And I've got to be really honest, I'm not a fan of any of those sequels, if I'm being honest. So Season of the Witch, just going back again, should have, the only thing I can really say about it is, I suppose, again, is that I just wish it was given a chance to stand on its own 2 feet.
Yeah, me too.
And I think that's part of the reason why it's so disliked. What I want to ask, though, I got to ask you 2 more things I really want to ask you about this movie, because I know you're a big... What we should have said as well, I hope it's a big... You know, although you're kind of getting the feeling that you know she's a big fan of this movie. But 2 things I want to put to you. Number 1, because I don't know a lot of the behind-the-scenes stuff of this movie, but I always kind of imagine, because the adverts lead the kids to put on the masks, and then they die in the most horrendous way, which I'll let you describe. I mean, and it is like the ultimate taboo, because it's violence towards children, really. So, you know, back in 82, it must have been really... It's just such a shocking idea. And the kids kind of put the masks on and die a certain way, which involves insects and slimy bugs and stuff. Then the kind of way they die, I guess, but the way that they die seems like a child's idea of dying in the story rather than you know. I mean, do you know anything? Were they originally meant to bleed from the mask?
I don't think so. I can't remember if it was like that, but I think there was something that was supposed to be used. It's been a while since I watched the behind the scenes disc, so I'm gonna have to go back and see.
Do you remember hearing there was the original idea?
I think so. Yeah, I think there was a different idea, and then I can't remember why they put the bugs in. But yeah, I do.
Because it kind of softens. Like, I mean, it's still very, very creepy, but it kind of slightly softens it.
Yeah.
Rather than just have blood pouring from your eyes.
Oh god, it's going to drive me nuts. But yeah, I'll come back sometime and put it in what I remember.
Yeah, because that's always fascinated me, and I can't seem to really find any information on that. And the other...
Yeah, I'm just going to have to get the disc or something.
And the other question I want to ask you is Stacey and Ellican, right? It's again one of the final twists of the movie, once they finally resolve this, what they think they resolved the situation by destroying the Silver Shamrock factory. Yeah. For the twist of on the journey out, she suddenly becomes a robot.
Oh god, that was horrendous.
Yeah. was she always a robot? When did she become a robot? Explain.
I think I can't remember, but I think it was when they took her away in the factory, when they're all in the factory and they take Tom Atkins like separately.
Oh yeah, I remember.
And then they take her separately, I believe, because they capture him, you know. Okay. And take him back to the factory. And I think they must have done something to him because you didn't see her for a while. You only seen Tom. Yeah. Yeah. So she must have turned into a robot then. But the fascinating thing too about this movie is like when the beginning scene with her father who had the mask in the hospital, and the way he died because he was killed in the hospital. Yeah. Like basically
by robot assassins.
Yeah, the robot came in and assassinated him because he had the mask with him, and they didn't want anybody to find out about the mask because he was still kind of alive. They didn't kill him all the way. And so after the robot did that, he goes out to the parking lot and sets himself on fire. Yeah. And it was like such a good scene, and you're like, what the fuck is going on? Because you didn't really know he was a robot. You just thought this crazy guy
set himself on fire.
Yeah, he just was setting himself on fire.
It's very creepy. There's another film from, I don't know if you've seen this one, in 1983 called Impulse, or 84, I forget, with Tim Matheson and Meg Tilly. And they go back home to Meg Tilly's family, where Bill Paxton plays a brother, in a very minor role, but and the kind of town is being taken over in an invasion of the body snatchers kind of start again. And the reason I mention this is it comes at roughly the same time as Season of the Witch, and that's a very creepy little movie that no one talks about to this day. I've always really liked it.
It sounds familiar. I love Meg Tilly.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, and it's a really cool movie as well. But it's almost like everyone in that movie just lacks emotion and kind of kills themselves and stuff. And it's such a creepy movie.
I do. Yeah, I'm gonna have to rewatch that one.
Yeah, and it just reminded me where you said, oh, he sets himself on fire. I remember there's a scene, I'm sure, where someone just randomly shoots herself in this, and it's like, whoa, you know. If I remember correctly, it's been years since I've seen it, but it reminds me of Season of the Witch. And if anyone asked me to pick sort of 10 movies from the 1980s that don't get their credit, I would pick Season of the Witch, but it's starting to get its credit now. But you would ask me a long time ago, I would have said, oh yeah, Season of the Witch. But Impulse, I would still pick. Yeah. Do you have a favourite scene from Season of the Witch?
Besides that scene, I think my favorite kill is probably one of the women who was selling the masks, and she comes to the town because like the evil guy invites all of the people to come to the town so he can kill them off, you know, with the kids, before the kids, you know, whatever. And so she's staying in the room next door to Tom Atkins.
Okay, what, at the motel?
Yeah, at the motel. And I love her death, like, because she finds like a little chip on the floor.
Which is from the mask.
From the mask.
Containing the little bits of Stonehenge.
Yeah, and she starts messing with it, and like these big lasers like shoot out at her in her face.
Well, like 80s optical effects, yeah.
And then like all of a sudden she has like a big hole in her mouth, and the whole, all these like spiders and stuff comes out. That was like really good effects on that one, but yeah.
Because that's almost what it's basically showing you what is happening inside the mask, really, isn't it? When basically inside that mask, that little chip containing the Stonehenge piece is zapping the child in the head.
Oh,
and then
Lord, making them explode.
So basically, you're seeing in that scene what we don't see later in the film. So basically, what happens to that woman is happening to every single child who wears the mask. So it's like Tommy Lee Wallace's way of letting you know that's how those kids are dying, by the way.
Yeah, they just couldn't do it to the kid, except when the one where he's like melting with his, mask on. The mask is just melting on his face.
Doesn't he go into like a little room? Because that's the scene I remember where he's there with his family and they're doing it for an advert, and it's being recorded like in a little studio they've mocked up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's
I forgot.
creepy.
If they were there to like interview him,
and they were thinking, we've won a prize, and really,
because they were top sellers.
Really, they were
selling a mask.
Basically, they were just being guinea pigs, weren't they?
Yeah, basically.
What a lovely movie. But yeah, so just sort of coming to the end of this show now, although hoping I could wax lyrical furthermore into the night with Season of the Witch, because it's so good. Yeah, I just want to say, is there anything you want to kind of say to people who are listening in terms of finding us?
Find us on Facebook at Sound and Vision, and on Instagram you can find us and listen to us on everything you're probably doing now, YouTube.
Yeah, and to all the people who are still listening to us, thank you, by the way.
Yeah, definitely.
So just before we sign off here then, basically, if you're tired of seeing Michael Myers in a silly white mask doing the same thing over and over again, and you want something a little bit different this Halloween, and you haven't seen it, but I'm sure you have now, but if you haven't, I really, really recommend Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. It's weird. I mean, it's almost like part paranoid conspiracy thriller. It's got that 70s conspiracy vibe, which I absolutely love. Mixed with ideas from Hammer, because it's Nigel Neal's involvement, who also wrote the Stone Tape and various things. So you got those kind of British horror ideas and smart ideas, and then you got that 80s horror, 80s gore, 80s synth, and it's a real coming together of these three completely different elements to make this very unique, very as I said at the top of the show, misunderstood movie that, I'm glad it's finding its audience now. I'm just saddened that it took so long, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, but it did.
But it's there, yeah.
I think it's perfection.
Yeah.
It's in my top 3 favorite films.
It's one of Hope's top 3 films, by the way, yeah.
Yeah.
We should do a show one day on your top movies.
Top 10, didn't I?
Yeah.
Yeah. Carrie's in there too. So.
Yeah, which we covered recently.
Yeah. Mine always moves though, because someone got bumped because the Boogeyman was, and that was like 1981 Boogeyman, not whatever remake bullshit Boogeyman.
Yeah, you're the most 1981. Yeah. What about Night of the Creeps? Because we watched that recently. Has that been bumped in your top 10?
Night of the Creeps?
No.
Night of the Comet.
Yeah, that's the one.
I don't know. I have to go through my list and see. Yeah.
Well, I'll save that one for another show anyway.
Yeah, but definitely Halloween 3 is a top-notch movie. I think the score, the acting, the actors, the story, the effects are brilliant. I think it all just works. And it brings me back whenever the song plays. It just makes me want to dance to like Halloween.
And
it makes me do the Halloween dance,
which is really disturbing, and it's probably left a horrible image in everyone's heads now as they finish. So yeah. If you haven't seen it, please go and see it.
I'm not a bad dancer. What are you talking about?
Yeah. So there you go, folks. Until we meet again for another episode, this is Ian James saying goodbye.
And this is Hope saying goodbye.
And remember, folks, it's only 14 days to Halloween.
No, I can't prove it. You've got to believe me. Believe me. Take it off the air now, please. You've got to. It makes sense.
Please excuse the interruption. We're having technical problems. Please stand by.
It's time.
We are experiencing technical difficulties. Please stand by.
dark masks, gather round your TV set. Put on your masks and watch. All witches, all skeletons, all jack-o'-lanterns.
The third
gather
commercial,
round
it's
and
still on,
watch.
please.
Watch
Take off the
magic
third channel,
unfold.
the third channel, it's still running. Stop it, please, for God's sake, please stop it. There's no more time. You've got to, please, stop it now, turn it off. Turn it off. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it.